Hello everyone, my name is Awot, and today I will be discussing Demeter. So we finally got some more news on her. I think her portrait looks kind of awesome. She stands firm and strong. They really went in for the whole wheat aesthetic. And what she's holding in the image matches what she's holding in the statues. She's got that sickle and that cornucopia on her. And most importantly, right here it says that she has Harpies, which is really interesting. Because the only other character in Age of Mythology that has a combat myth unit in Age 1 is Hades. He gets shades, which have a chance of spawning whenever a human unit dies. And the only other two characters with myth units in Age 1 is Poseidon and Odin. But their quote-unquote myth units are just scouts. Set gets a baboon, but I hardly doubt you can consider that myth unit, considering the game doesn't give it the pink border or the blue glow. I think it's just in its own category of just wild animal that Set has. So yeah, this just goes to show how uncommon this is. I wonder how this will work out. If she can train it in her temple, I wonder which slot it will take. Since for the Greeks, the first slot is occupied by the Pegasus. I wonder if it will take her last slot, since typically the other first slots are taken by the ages 2 through 4 myth units. That or the 5th slot as well. That would probably make more sense actually. Or I wonder, just like Hades, if she's going to have a unique way they can get them. There's even the ultimate option that this is her special fortress unit that each Greek has. But we'll just have to see. Just really interesting that she actually has a myth unit. What's more is that her Harpies look nothing like the Harpies that we currently have in the game. So if you notice on some maps like Erebus or Muspelheim, did I say that right? You'll see Harpies in the sky flying around, and they look like this. You also see them in that one Chinese mission where you break into Hades' home to restore the underworld, and a Harpy scout might alert Cerberus if you annoy them too much. That uses the same model as well. So it's interesting to see that they did not use this model for the Harpy unit and decided to go with a new one. But I mentioned in the previous video that I was actually concerned with them reusing the model since it would be confusing on those underworld maps. So I guess this is a great solution. I just hope them being added to my game does not cook my maps and replace all the existing, harmless Harpies with the Demeter one that attacks you. If it does, I'll be sure to fix it, don't worry. Which, by the way, shameless plug, the map being shown right now is Awot Unknown, which has a chance to spawn as the underworld biome. But moving back to the main subject, we get to see what her picks for the other ages are. So the image shown on screen is the first one that they teased, and we could piece together that Hestia would be a choice, and then based on the background information we put together that Pheresphone was a choice. But the third one was up for grabs, but now it seems to be Pan. And some of you might be going, it was obviously Pan, but there was a handful of people also claiming that was obviously someone else, But now it's Pan, the satyr looking dude, which is funny because the satyrs are a myth unit for the Atlanteans and not the Greeks. But looking at their images, I'm a little weirded out by them. I don't know, Hestia's got that 1,000-yard stare of feels uncanny. Probably worse than the Mona Lisa even. This Pheresphone picture though, awesome. She's got that fruit to remind you that she's Demeter's daughter and also the wife of Hades with the underworld specters. Also, I love the casual shade they throw to Hades about kidnapping her. Well, I wouldn't say it's random, but I just wanted to make a shade pun after we just talked about how Hades has shades in Age 1. Okay, awkwardly moving on. Let's look at this picture and holy flashbang. Oh, let me put that away. Okay, there we go. I'm not going to zoom in on the rest of the pictures as to not flashbang everyone who's watching at night, but we can see their powers. Arcadian metal honestly sounds like a sort of localized ceasefire. So this can provide a lot of value if you micro it correctly, with the obvious is using it where only your enemies are in it. Or I should say in the Arcadian metal. But unlike ceasefire, it won't be able to cancel out things such as Fimbulwinter, which is one of the most popular use of ceasefire. Being able to shut down an Age 4 power with an Age 2 power is pretty devastating. But yeah, it has its uses and its losses. Doing the Communal Hearth sounds like a plenty vault. Instead of giving you like a major trickle of all resources, it could just give you a trickle of food, provide a defense around your areas. So in a later image, we'll see that units around the hearth glow. This could be indicating that they get a defensive stat increase while around the hearth, and the glow is the indicator for them being affected by the hearth. And then for converting enemy units to your side, I assume it's going to be like a timed mechanic, where if an enemy is around the hearth for too long, they're going to smell the warm cookies and milk and succumb to the wholesomeness of the hearth and fall to your side, but only if they hang out around it for too long, is what I assume. Who knows, it could also be just be like you throw it in the middle of combat, instantly changes them. It looks like a destroyable building though, but I could be wrong. And then finally, Underworld Invasion sounds like it could both be an awesome power and the worst power. Sacrifices your town centers for the last 100 units. And I don't know if they're going to bring the 100 units back as a form of like a nerfed spectral version, or they're going to bring it back as specifically a unit called the Spectral Eidolons, which is going to be a shade situation where regardless of what human unit died, it's going to turn it to that unit. Depending on the strength of these spectral eidolons, it could be strong or weak. But I think destroying your town centers without having any scaling kind of sucks for comp stomp players with big team games or large or giant map sizes. Because imagine you're on a giant map size, you have to sacrifice 5 town centers instead of 3 on the standard size. Or in a team game, you gotta sacrifice a lot more, you've conquered the enemy a little bit. So I think right now it should scale with like how much units you get as per town center, but we'll see. Just a weird Greek Ragnarok right now, but I shouldn't be so judgmental without seeing how it works first. Moving on to the myth units, we got the Lycan, the Hamadryad, and the Siren. In case you guys don't remember, I found out the names of these units by looking at the Xbox store information, so we knew this all in advance. But while we knew the names, we didn't really know what they could do, and I had actually speculated that Siren picks up enemies and throws them down, but it looks like that was saved for the Harpies, so do I get like half points there or no? Anyways, the light cleanse seems so funny to use in PvP, and based on the image I will show you later, they can farm, so you can use them to boost your economy when they're not in combat. But I wonder if from the enemy POV they're gonna look like normal villagers. And I'm kind of worried on how this will work against bots, since a lot of players like to play against bots, since as a mod maker for this game, I think about the other side than just the competitive side. And I definitely see the element of surprise not being as good against bots because, you know, they just jump you indiscriminately. And the Hamadryad's tree ability sounds really cool. We're gonna have so many memes in the subreddit about how they're in the trees. But besides that, I'm actually kind of worried if these Hamadryads are gonna break my maps, because I don't know how the Hamadryad's gonna decide what kind of tree it will hide as. You know, there's so many trees in the game, and a lot of my maps feature a lot of unorthodox tree combinations. So I hope it decides what tree it is based on the next nearest tree, but we'll have to find out. If this ends up breaking my maps, I'm going to be very sad. In case you didn't know, I make randomly generating maps for these games. I'll leave some cards in the top right corner for you to check out what kind of content I have. And I'm updating my mod pack 2 days after Demeter. But if the Hamadryad or the Harpies break my maps, it's going to take a lot longer. So here's hoping the Hamadryad just takes the look of the next nearest tree. Anyway, rant aside, this sounds really fun, but once again, might have diminishing returns when used against bots, which is a big player base of the game. Since a lot of people playing this game are not interested in competitive or PvP. The sirens sound good though for all uses, dragging away, you know, specific types of units like the archer backlines. I wonder if it works on villagers, since the game typically doesn't like abilities affecting villagers, such as Fey Bees or Wildfire. I think they've been recently nerfed to not affect villagers as much. So we'll have to see if this ability can draw out villagers, which will be devastating on economy, but based on the fact that it looks like it's an age 4 unit, considering it's synced with Pheresphone, by then you would have established town centers multiple, and most likely not be as affected by a few villagers being lured out. So good balance call right there. Speaking of balance calls, that's probably why they make the Lycanthrope or Lycan, whatever you call it, go with Pan, and the Hamadryad go with Hestia, despite the fact that they were going for a nature vibe of Pan and a family and slash people kind of vibe of Hestia. So thematically, I thought it would work like reverse, with the Hamadryad going with Pan since he's nature-like, and the Lincoln's going with Hestia since Hestia is all about the community and people. But gameplay-wise, I can see why they do these things, since while the game does try its best to represent mythology, it is still a game that has to consider how games are played and what age you are when you unlock things. And it's definitely taking its liberties on mythology in the past, because when have you heard of Ajax traveling with Norse dwarves to China before? Probably not before in Greek mythology. So I wouldn't stress too hard about historical accuracy in this game, you know, because they have to consider so many things outside of just being historically accurate. You know, I'm not trying to say they're going to get rid of it completely, but, you know, it's just a thing to consider. On top of that, finally, we have a new Mythic Battle. The game has been out for like over a year now, and that Mythic Battle page that most people forgot even existed has only had 1 entry in it, so I'm so happy we finally got more for it. Chiron's back from the Underworld, which, by the way, his tragic loss was spoiled to me by the achievements, but now he's back to the Underworld and it looks like he's going to go back there. It's crazy. It looks like Age of Mythology has been loving its pink trees as of late, because they even gave Demeter pink trees on her little statue thing. I don't think this is the temple for her. I might be wrong, but this looks like the temple in the middle of Mount Olympus modified for her. So I think this is like mission exclusive, but I might be wrong, you know, because in a later picture we do see villagers praying at it. But if this is her temple, it wouldn't explain what the other building also looking like a temple would be. But hey, look at the new hero. Orpheus is his name. He's to the right of Chiron here and between the relic. Is that some unupgraded hoplites to the right of a different team and they're being chased off? I'm not sure. But yeah, it looks like they're just gathering around. This looks probably like the opening cutscene to the mission, where Chiron's like, hey, I'm going to do this today, and that's why I need all of you to die for it. You know, because villagers just love giving their lives for the greatest causes back then. And that's it on this page, but unfortunately, Age of Mythology has done that thing again where multiple information is split across multiple pages, so let me open the Steam store page. We can see Icarus with his metal wings, or whatever hero this is. On this Xbox page it says Icarus. A lot of people are saying it's probably his father because of the mythological sense, but just like the Ajax thing, Age of Mythology often takes liberties. But it is weird though, because in the Arena of the Gods, Gaia directly mentions that Icarus is already dead, so I don't know. But then Chiron was supposed to be dead too, so I don't know. Also, Icarus just has like his dogs out, man. Those grippers. Like, I know you can fly, but some sandals for when you hit land wouldn't hurt, would it? Also, if I'm not mistaken, it seems like you're playing as purple team here instead of the usual dark blue. But maybe my color perception is just off because of the lighting or something. Also, I noticed in the description it makes it sound like that Hades is the antagonist, but in the campaign of the Fall of the Trident, Hades is such a bro to you. He helps you out and guides your way across the underworld, helping you prevent Kronos' escape. I know he attacks you in the Chinese campaign, but that's mainly like because you break into his home and start smashing his statues. If someone broke in my house and broke my handcrafted pottery, I'd be pretty mad too. It's not even Hades directly attacking you, it's his pet guard dog, Cerberus. But then I wonder why if he's against the Titans getting out, why Cerebus was going nuts in the Atlantean campaign. But like I said, Age of Mythology takes its liberties, so it's best not to think too hard about it. I know that there's a gap of time between the Atlantean writers and the Chinese DLC writers, so maybe a change in writership, and they just forgot that Cerebus was going nuts the other day, not under Hades' control. Anyways, devastatingly, there's no wheat farms here, as I predicted in the last video, or yellow berries either, as I mentioned in the last video too. So thank you to the people who called me out and called me wrong. I concede defeat on the wheat farms and the yellow berries. But you can see that the villagers around the hearth have a yellow glow to it. As I previously mentioned, this might be the defensive buff they're talking about, with how people around it might get a defensive buff. And then I noticed around Orpheus, the people are also glowing. So maybe Orpheus grants a similar defensive buff where it allows them to be heroes, which would help the Greek problem of fighting myth units, because boy oh boy do they struggle with Titans. Even if you make like a bunch of Centaurs, which have a bonus against myth units, is still a struggle. The whole Greek myth units versus other myth units has been a struggle for me. I also know that he has a mechanic related to vision, because the head of Orpheus the Bard is the name of a relic in the game that grants you +8 line of sight vision on all buildings. So maybe he also grant units further vision there next to them, and the glowing is an indicator of that. But yeah, that's most of the information. However, I noticed in the Xbox store, it says the exact specific time the DLC release will be 1 p.m. I'm in the Eastern time zone, which is like New York, so it's 1 p.m. New York time. For Pacific time zone, which is like California, that'll be 10 a.m. And then for my British friends, that should be 6 p.m. or 1700, since you're 5 hours ahead of New York time. For my Australian friends in the city of Adelaide, that will be like 4:30 in the morning the next day, so February 11th at 4:30 in the morning for you guys. Well, if you're anyone else, sorry, you just have to do the math. Convert from Eastern time zone to whatever time zone you're in. 1 p.m. is 1300. Otherwise, I couldn't probe any other information out of the Xbox store like I previously got. Actually, why am I saying like I did it? I actually got that information from someone on Reddit, so I don't want to see the credit on that one. But what I'm trying to say here is I checked again, there wasn't much. But yeah, very excited for Demeter. The great addition. And after that, it's just cosmetic stuff and the blood and gore pack, and then the real big juicy piece of meat will be the Aztec pack sometime between April or June. And then who knows what comes after that. But you know, they're working on things right now. We can even see that there's 10 new achievements on Steam right now that you can't see yet. Considering Demeter only has one Mythic Battle, I'm not sure if all these achievements are for her or if any of them, because Freyr doesn't even have any achievements related to him. But it looks like something else may be coming at the same time as February 10th, maybe an update to Gauntlet mode, because I know getting the level 99 achievement in that mode is just atrocious. Even if you use my guide, which I think everyone who watched the guide, it's already a bit outdated, but back to main subject. Even if you use the guide and speedrun set Batal, I was getting like 25-minute speedruns, and I was still not even close to getting level 99. I think with like 25-minute speedruns, I would still need to grind another 15 hours to get to level 99. It's just absurd. Someone did the math in the Steam discussion forums. So yeah, hopefully they tweak it. On the official Age of Empires forums, I posted ways they could fix it, so maybe they'll take it into consideration. Otherwise, I think there might be more than just Demeter on February 10th to keep us. Speaking of, I hope the Aztec trailer at least drops soon, because Heavenly Spear dropped a trailer 3 months before its release. And I think Immortal Pillars dropped the trailer like 5 months before its release, or like it's way further than Heavenly Spear though. We're definitely in the time frame of 3 to 5 months in advance, you know, a good time for a trailer. But I don't want to get you guys' hopes up since they haven't even finished the Ultimate Supporter or the Gore pack yet. And as of late, they have been a little shy with news. Because with the Chinese update, we got information long in advance, but the Japanese DLC, they were kind of quiet about it up until like a few days before it came out. They gave the creators the preview. And then with Demeter, you can see they waited 2 weeks before it came out to release any news about it. But the Demeter one, though, I'll give them a break because they just came back from the winter break. And working on these things isn't easy, so let's not rush them and wait for them to finish what's on the plate first before we start barraging them. But yeah, that's all I got for today. Hopefully this gave you some more insight. I definitely take these things from a more casual standpoint, you know, because I play a lot of comp stomp and random game modes like free-for-all, while other people may be focused on like 1v1s competitive specifically. So I may have missed like if something's broken on 1v1 perspective, but I hope I gave new insight to the casual things that are often neglected, like versus bots or existing game assets and all that. But yeah, thank you for watching. Have a good day.
Easy.